Wait, get out on my level. Hi, so today I'm gonna talk about sewing manuals. To keep this simple, I'm gonna split this video into 4 topics. 1. Why do sewing manuals exist? 2. What information do they have? 3. My experience with them. And 4. Where can I find them? So, you might have seen other costumers use old Victorian sewing manuals. They aren't really that hard to access, but why can't you see people use sewing manuals from the earlier periods? Well, because they didn't really exist back then. Sewing manuals got popular in the Victorian period, when sharing your craft through text also became more popular. Before this, all this information would be taught to you in a workshop by your master. From the Victorian period onwards, sewing manuals had its ups and downs. For example, they became more popular in the 50s with the rise of housewives, or in the 70s with the arts and crafts. Those sewing manuals have obviously information about sewing, but those informations are very detailed. Some manuals teach you every little thing about sewing, like how to sew on placket, how to gather, and stuff like that. Some sewing manuals will teach you about drafting or draping. Some will teach you about all of those. For example, the 70s and 80s manuals that I own explain the basics of sewing but focus on drafting and how to make your own designs. As we are already talking about my sewing manuals, let me quickly tell you how I learned to sew. I only started sewing a year ago, as I have mentioned in one of my last videos, and the first thing I made was a dress from the 80s sewing manual. I already knew how to use a sewing machine, but that was pretty much it. I was able to draft and sew this whole thing by myself with little to no help. Now, I know that can be a bit much for some people, but you don't have to jump in the deep water like me. You can start by sewing a skirt if you wear those, or a blouse, move on to the pants, and keep choosing gradually more difficult projects step by step. I've noticed that there are kind of 2 schools of sewing. One are commercial patterns and 2 sewing manuals. Now, just a heads up, both of those are completely valid. You do learn different things from those though. Nowadays, people that want to learn how to sew will usually go for commercial patterns. Now, this is good when it comes to understanding the construction of garments. Sadly, it doesn't really teach you about how those patterns were created. But if you are fine with just recreating already existing designs, then it's a good bet. On the other hand, if you do want to do your own thing, then go for sewing manuals. Drafting and mock-ups will teach you how those shapes actually work. Most of the garments I sew, I drafted myself, and the second dress I ever made was designed by me. Of course, you can also pull a Rachel Maxi and just mash up already existing patterns together. Okay, but where can you get those old sewing manuals? In Poland, you can easily buy them in a flea market or online. I'm going to leave the titles of the books that I have in the description for you guys. As far as I know, getting those in other countries is also easy. Also, if you are more interested in Victorian and Edwardian periods, finding sewing manuals from those times in digital libraries is surprisingly easy. So I guess this is all for today, and I hope you will have some fun learning how to sew or just learning about sewing manuals, I guess. I don't know what you're here for. Bye.